Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Marshall Lawrence. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency Mr. Ufuk Jazer, Ambassador of Turkey to Australia, and Dr. Shebnem Feruza Jazer. We also warmly welcome the delegates from the Korean Women Journalists Association and Group Captain Matt Cottrell, Distinguished Flying Cross, retired, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of North Melbourne Primary School from North Melbourne, Victoria. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Warrant Officer Jack Murray Chew. Jack Chew was born on the 13th of June 1917 in Toowoomba, Queensland, the eldest son of Alfred and Rose Chew. Growing up, he had a sister, Joy, and two brothers, Wilfred and Desmond. His father was a printer. Chew was educated at Newtown State School and Toowoomba Grammar School. He was fond of cricket, boxing and table tennis, and represented Toowoomba in intercity hockey matches. After leaving school, he worked as a proofreader and sub-editor with Harrison Printing Company before going on to work as a salesman at the Toowoomba Foundry. In 1937, he passed his mercantile law exam with the Australian Institute of Accountants, and he also took night classes in shorthand and typing. Having served for 3 years with the 25th Battalion, Chew enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 4th of June 1940. He trained as a pilot, receiving his wings a year later when he was made sergeant. On the 6th of June 1941, Chew married Leslie Hawkins in St James Church of England in Toowoomba. The newlywed couple had very little time together, however, as Chew embarked for overseas service from Sydney on the 17th of July, arriving in the United Kingdom in September. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,000 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who joined Australian and British squadrons in Britain throughout the course of the war. Further specialist training followed in England, and in December 1941, Chew was promoted to flight sergeant. Throughout 1942, Chew served with Bomber Squadrons 103, 9, 115 and 161. In December, he was made a warrant officer and was posted to number 1483 Bombing and Gunnery Flight. Here, he worked as an instructor, helping to train bomber crews by simulating enemy attacks in his Hawker Hurricane. On the 11th of March 1944, Chew was taking part in a non-operational exercise when he lost control of the aircraft and crashed into the ground at Weltmore Farm in Norfolk. He was buried at Cambridge City Cemetery under the inscription, "Happily he lived, and for us he died." Chew's parents received a letter from the commanding officer of the unit with which Jack was instructing. He wrote, "Jack had been with me for over a year and was one of the most popular members of my staff and will be very much missed by everybody. I myself had come to regard him as a friend, and his death came as a great shock. I had been trying very hard to get him commissioned, for I had a high opinion of his capabilities, and I think he would have gone far." Jack Chew was dearly missed by his family, who placed in memoriam notices in the newspapers for years after his death. Warrant Officer Jack Chew's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Warrant Officer Jack Murray Chew, who gave his life for us, for our freedom, and in the hope of a better world.
If you are able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.